every now and then I decide to descend into one of the internet's mental asylums, and today I decided to go on Reddit. And it's interesting to see the delusions and delirium of the people there. They live in a completely different reality than you and I. They seem to believe that YouTube, yes, YouTube is cracking down on Dungeons and Dragons channels. And I thought, like, okay, well, this is going to make an interesting video. What possible motivation can YouTube have on cracking down on Dungeons and Dragons channel? Like, they're not controversial. There's no pressure from the ADL. There's really no reason why YouTube would do this. Now, I'm not saying that YouTube wouldn't crack down on certain channels, because it has in the past, both directly and indirectly. For instance, when it comes to news channel, YouTube decided to promote authoritative sources. So if you use the search bar in order to find anything newsworthy, you're going to first get CNN, MSLSD, and all the other alphabet soup networks. So indirectly, news channels are being suppressed. But then they also crack down directly on channels that spread the Q conspiracy, on channels that were associated with the MGTOW movement, so on and so forth. Like, every now and then they decided to ban channels based on their content, even though at the time they weren't violating it in terms of service. But why would it go after Dungeons and Dragons? Like, it makes absolutely no sense. And so I decided to look into it, and apparently it's true. Like, there were a lot of channels, as you can see on the page here, that were doing Dungeons and Dragons content, and all of a sudden they noticed a significant drop in the content. And you gotta wonder why. Why is this, right? Now, you gotta also wonder, how did it become popular, right? Like, how did Dungeons and Dragons become really popular? Well, the first time it became popular is when the AAA gaming industry was carrying Dungeons and Dragons. And so you have video games like Neverwinter Nights. You got like all these AAA games like Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. Like, all of them are coming out, and a lot of people are familiarizing themselves with Dungeons and Dragons. And many like myself, who aren't even American, found out that, okay, well, board games exist and they're really cool. And so you decide to follow these channels. The other thing that made D&D really popular is the TV show Stranger Things. This reminded people that D&D exists, that it's quite fun. And so a lot of people got involved. Now, another thing that also made D&D popular was shows like we did, right? Me, Arch, Sargon of Akkad, like, we were pulling 4,000, 5,000 viewers at the time when live streaming wasn't as popular as it is today. And it was quite a significant number for YouTube, right? And so people who would watch us, they would try to play their own D&D campaigns. They would try to get involved and obviously watch all these other channels. And this is what raised the popularity of D&D. And so you gotta realize that what made it go up is the same thing that makes it go down. The AAA industry right now in the West is on its deathbed. They decided to pause themselves with diversity, inclusivity, and equity. They're suffering, and I'm afraid it's terminal. Like, they're hiring incompetent people that can't make a game that works on launch. They're making female characters that look like men with wigs. They're lecturing the player about political issues. For no reason whatsoever, the main character would sit you down at a table and start talking about pronouns. So, like, all of these things are making the consumer move away from the entertainment industry in the West, and they're looking towards China. And China is not doing D&D games. They're doing different types of games. So, like, that's one of the interests that is gone. The second problem is that Stranger Things right now is on hiatus, and they're probably, going to experience, like we're going to experience a small increase in the attention that D&D gets when the next season airs, and then it's going to die off again. But the main issue is D&D itself. It's cancerous. It's fucking toxic. Like, they decided to inject so much politics into the game that any second I would expect that the next Democratic National Convention is going to be held within D&D. Like, they decided to make Mexican orcs. They decided to focus on pronouns and to remove the slavery aspect from the Dark Elves. Like, they're constantly sanitizing the game. They have a team that is removing more stuff from the game than adding it in, right? Like if you look at D&D, you can say that it reached some level of quality with the 5 edition, which I know a lot of people are upset with, that they're not happy. But like, that seems to be as high as it goes. Like, it will never go that far, because what they're doing now, instead of adding new spells, adding new features, adding new game mechanics, they're constantly removing stuff. They're like, okay, we don't like orcs being savage murderous creatures. Let's turn them into Californian-looking tourists. Or make them Mexican. Almost every single D&D photo that comes up doesn't look like it's an adventure. It looks more like it's a stock photo. Let's have like women look like men with wigs with the mental illness haircut. Like, all that shit makes it not fun. And so I keep saying that the biggest damage that they do, because like a lot of people say, well, if you don't like, a remake or a sequel that's woke, why do you care about it? And the reason I care about it is because it destroys the community. Just like Star Wars destroyed the community, just like Doctor Who destroys the community, so does Dungeons & Dragons going to absolutely destroy the community. Here's a tip for Melanie Mac. Make a porn game that is so fucking cringe and filled with identity politics, and you're going to destroy the community for The Last Descendant or whatever other game she's complaining about. Seriously, this is a tip for all the religious people, right? Just make cringe porn games where they lecture people about various social issues, you inject politics, you make the characters cringe, and that's how you destroy all of the hentai community and everything else that's out there. Because it seems to be working for the left. No one wants to talk about Dungeons and Dragons anymore. It's shit. And so, yeah, I do feel bad for the channels that found a niche, and they were constantly talking about D&D, because now no one is looking into them. And they're going to have to pivot or just be satisfied with a very small and niche audience. My advice to them would be to find a different tabletop, probably not D&D, but something else that hasn't been subjected to sanitization, and start collabing with each other. Start making interesting board games that like gameplay sessions in order to drag people back into the hobby. Because otherwise, you're not going to manage to succeed. It's kind of funny because D&D 1 is actually supposed to make D&D a lot easier to play. Like, you're supposed to be able to play from your computer. It's supposed to be online. A lot of people should be hyped about it, but the direction that the company chose to go with, where you have to sign consent forms before playing a game, and you're like consenting because the game may have certain themes, and it's like absolute nonsense. It's just like the symbol of what you're going to get, right? Like complete sanitization of the hobby, which D&D is not supposed to have. And so, no, I don't think YouTube is killing D&D. I think D&D as itself is dying, and the developers are killing it. And just so you know, like, there was an interview where one of the developers said, yeah, like the original guys, the ones that made D&D, they wouldn't be allowed to make it today. So when you say something like that, you know everything there is to know. Like, you know someone that created a product that's world-renowned, and it's got, like, really high respect and prestige, and it made a lot of money, and that's why you're in business, and you're basically saying, fuck those guys. They were immortal. Like, we're the decent ones. Well, decent ones without an audience, I guess. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.